Hey colleagues, welcome to week 5. I hope that you had a good weekend and really looking forward to some of the things that I'm having you read for this new week. First of all, week 4, I just want to remind you that I did post the recording of Dr. Michaela O'Donnell's lecture. I hope that you get a chance to go back and review that, and if you didn't get a chance to show up last week, that you have a chance to do that as well. This week we turn the corner a little bit and we move from sort of reflecting on ourselves as a learner-centered teacher to actually thinking about learners a little bit. So I've given you some different things to read. These aren't necessarily exhaustive pieces for you, but I find that in our teaching and in our preaching for that matter, that there's a challenge that we have as teachers, and that is that I think our peripheral vision of who we see in the audience narrows and narrows and narrows. We don't do that on purpose. It usually comes out of maybe our own sort of expertise, our own experiences, and as a result, we make assumptions about who's in the room, or instinctively, we just sort of use illustrations or terminology that focus simply on a group of people that maybe oftentimes are often like us. So we really have to pay attention to who's out there. How do we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion? How do we think about the needs of our learners and who is populating our spaces in class and online? And so I want to give you a chance to just read some different looks and to think about that. On top of that, one of the things to think about is that we're not just talking about this idea of pedagogy, but there's also sort of a term associated with pedagogy, and that is andragogy. This is the concept and the theory of adult learning. Adult learners start at a different place than younger people do. There's different reasons that adult learners learn. There's different ways and tools that adult learners access to actually do their learning. And so I think especially for all of you, as you think about undergraduate or graduate education, it's important to keep this in mind. I think what makes this tricky, especially for undergraduate and quite frankly, even some of the beginning years of graduate school is that you have learners that are in the process of moving in their own educational agency. They're learning to take ownership and draw from their experiences and to channel their learning in a direction that they feel is important for their own development and growth. And so with that is something deeply spiritual. There's a transformational element associated with that as people are becoming and transforming and forming and changing. And so there's a lot of things sort of flying around here. So I wanted to just give you some different looks, some different articles to hear from different authors in the way that they're sort of wrestling with that and sort of laying the landscape of things to think about when it comes to andragogy, when it comes to formation and education, and when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion as we think about that as well. Obviously, these topics are rather large. It's not completely up to the teacher to handle it all. We know that there's a macro level of forces that we need to pay attention to. There's a meso or a mid-level element associated with the way that we hold curriculum, the way that we think about learning outcomes that is oftentimes not just about the individual but the institution. But then there is the role that we play as educators as well. So I hope you can just kind of give these some different looks and then it helps you reflect on that. And all I have you doing this week is reading and then journaling and reflecting on your thoughts as well. In the meantime, I'll be reading your teacher identity memos. Obviously, I'm not grading them in the sense that these are your stories. I'm much more interested in just kind of hearing and listening and reading about how you've sort of turned these ideas and reflected on them. And I'll try to offer some responses to that and sort of think with you as you continue to reflect on your own roles and personas as educators and as you're growing into that role. So looking forward to that. Have a great week. Appreciate you all. Grace. Peace.